It's June. It's June. So a few months ago, or last year, I genuinely don't know anymore because I have lost all semblance of being able to keep track of time. I lost it a while ago. I don't think it's coming back. Sometimes I think something happened 2 months ago and it actually happened 2 years ago. So let's just say a while back, I said that I would be showing you guys this sketchbook. So I decided a while ago that I was gonna share all of the sketchbooks that I have worked on that I had on my person, because some are in storage or somewhere and I have no idea where they are. But I decided to share pretty much all of my sketchbooks because since I mostly share my pretty sketchbooks and I have different sketchbooks for different things, I think people are under the impression that that's the only way that I use a sketchbook. And I want to clear things up because I think thinking that your sketchbook has to be pretty all the time kind of stresses people out, because my sketchbooks are not pretty all the time. I just divide things, but what I need to practice on. So I wanted to clear up that confusion, and I wanted to share some old artwork because I was not good. I was not good. And frankly, I can always be better, because that's the thing about art, you can always be better. So I decided to share my old sketchbooks from, I think, 2012 through the last one that I've ever done, and it wasn't pretty, but I didn't share all of them because I decided to do a completely separate video on my concept art sketchbooks. I did the first one that I ever finished because I kind of go back and forth between them depending on which one's near me, and I just happened to finish that one. And when I say concept art, I mean the rough thumbnails and the sketching that I do before I do a complete thing. It's kind of like my ideation sketchbooks, and I did a whole thing on that one. And I also did promise to share this one. I think I said it on TikTok or that old video where I shared all my sketchbooks, but just to sort of refresh the memory, this sketchbook is from 2012 and it is falling apart at the seams, and I decided not to share it when I shared my old sketchbooks because this one was special. I realized that there was potential. It was just kind of ugly, and I say that with love because you have to start ugly at some point, and this one is falling apart at the seams, but I kept it because I knew that one day I wanted to go through it and just completely redo all of it. Not necessarily in execution, because for some reason I thought that I had to do covers like I was a Marvel poster designer, but in theme. So I have a lot of fairy tales in here, like a lot, because that's what I mainly use this one for. And it was mostly just me needing an excuse to study fairy tales because I was one of those nerds that really liked fairy tales and folklore and mythology. I still am. And I knew that one day I would want to completely redo it. And since I've decided to revamp my portfolio, I thought now would be the best time. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to do a flip through of this baby, whether I like it or not. And then I'm going to select some themes to add spot illustrations and spreads and book covers and junk to my portfolio. Obviously, I have a prompt list pretty much already in my brain that don't include things from here, like other middle grade book cover ideas that I could do. But I thought I could take a trip down memory lane and try to pick out what I thought had potential. Some of these, since they're fairy tales, I've already done before. So like Beauty and the Beast, I did an entire project for in college, so I'm not gonna really redo that. And I think it's still one of my best pieces in my portfolio, so I'm leaving that completely alone. I will be sharing the comparison, and some of them I probably won't be doing right now just because I don't think I have time to really completely redo this, but I thought it would be a fun exercise to flip through it, pick some themes out, and try to work on it now that a lot of time has passed so we can look through it together. And I want to be nice to myself because, like I said before, you have to start ugly at some point, and I recognize that. So I don't want to look through it and be like embarrassed of my old art. I just know that I have learned to do better, and I'm always learning to do better. I'm gonna look at art 5 years from now that I did this year and gonna be like disgusted by it. That's normal. So I'm gonna try not to be too upset at some of these, and I'm gonna look at them as babies. They're babies, and they're gonna get better for my portfolio this year, so on to it. It's super windy outside, so I'm gonna try to film this as quickly as possible so you guys can see what I mean. So first things first, the cover. So this is like a standard spiral bound sketchbook that you can get pretty much any art store, but the cover had these like pencils all over the place, and it started to like rip apart, and obviously it came off this. So I ended up putting poster board over it and laminating it to try to keep it together somehow. It still ended up breaking apart, and the only thing really keeping it together is this little twisty tie, the things that kids use for crafts that's like fuzzy. And I haven't even added one to the other side. It's been like this since I want to say 2013. The sketchbook's from 2012. So basically the cover pretty much tells you all you need to know about this sketchbook, that it's old. In 2012, I don't want to say that I discovered what illustration was, because I, grew up reading a lot. I had a lot of books. I clearly knew what illustration was. I just didn't know about the different kinds of illustration. I thought it was all kind of the same. So I wasn't aware that spot illustration, cover design, spread illustrations, one-page illustrations, that those were all different things. And I was, like I said before, I was drawing like I was a Marvel poster designer. I was trying to get as much in there as possible. To be fair, I was also kind of had like a weird obsession with Drew Struzan, but that is neither here nor there. And I told myself that this was only going to be for fairy tales, but I very quickly realized that I didn't know enough by memory, because this is all the paper that I have left. I don't want to waste it, and I definitely want to use it sometime, but working on this sketchbook now feels wrong almost. This first page is the Snow Queen. Obviously I drew this before Frozen even came out, so thankfully there was no sort of Disney point of reference. When I was younger, drawing something completely differently than how it was first was kind of difficult for me, because all I could think of was that one character that everyone knew, because people would always tell me, like, if I was drawing something different than how it was in the movie or a live action movie or whatever, they'd be like, that's not what she's wearing, and that would always kind of annoy me. Now I'm trying really hard to like make my own work that isn't referencing my favorite version of it. I tried to do like a lot of elements that are in the story that, looking back on it, like don't make any sense. Like, look how ugly this shattered mirror is. This is Alice in Wonderland. I tried to do like a bunch of stuff all at once, and I was actually really proud of it when I drew this back in 2012, as you can see, because I had like as many elements as I could possibly fit in a page, and now looking at it, I'm like, I can't even tell what most of this is supposed to be. Also, look at these flamingos next to this somewhat getting into the realm of realism face. Like, okay. Are they flamingos or are they dodo birds? Beside the point. This is Snow White. I was trying to go for black and white with an added color, but like, it doesn't work because the anatomy of the face is incorrect, and also I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be the guy inside the magic mirror, and yeah, not my best. But I can see potential in a lot of this. Beauty and the Beast, I have no idea what I was doing here, because I've drawn Beauty and the Beast my entire life, and there are so many prettier ones than this. I think I gave up on this one when the face wasn't coming out the way that I wanted to, because this is clearly like unfinished. Hansel and Gretel, this is when I started to use references in my work, because before I would just try to draw either using myself as reference or off the top of my head, and I realized that references really help, obviously. And I started using references because I wanted the kids not to look like me. Now I kind of think this one looks like Justin Bieber. I was trying to work with type because type is not my strongest suit, and I've worked on Hansel and Gretel before. I decided to draw the witch scene for my Inktober portfolio pieces that I'm still really proud of, and I might do more Hansel and Gretel stuff based on the art that I did for October. Rapunzel. I don't know what this is. Like I said before, I'm trying not to be ashamed, but considering how hard I've been working on learning historical costuming and trying to teach myself how to sew, just looking at this upsets me. And you can tell that I was trying to do like a really fancy like Pinterest braid, like out of the one window, but yeah. And I guess this was supposed to be like where the torch would go for her light, but that's really bad, and the bricks are just squares. Yeah, not my best, so yay me. Oh, Cinderella. You know, the sad part about this Cinderella is I was trying to draw a Keira Knightley-esque face. Who is that then? Who is that? Because I remember looking for references. Also, look at the wand that the hand is holding, because I just had to include literally everything that I could possibly think of in this, and I'm pretty sure that it's supposed to be her hand, but the values are so off I can't tell. So yeah. Sleeping Beauty. I actually think out of all of them so far, this one's my favorite, at least, because I see where I was going with it. I was trying to do the thorns and the roses and her sleeping, and I tried not to reference the movie, and I tried to do like a fancy little font. Is it good? No, but it's getting somewhere, and you can see the improvement from the first one. And this is still 2012. I remember I used to take these to school with me, to class. What YA nonsense is this? What YA nonsense is this? I definitely need to redo Red Riding Hood, because for some reason, whenever I see old Red Riding Hood art, because I actually drew Red Riding Hood a lot, I went through like a little phase. She's always like older looking, and I think it's because I was really struggling to draw children, and so I'm definitely redoing Red Riding Hood. I will say though, like the expression is so much better than like other drawings. Like compared to this, where the chin is off and the nose is really off, like this looks pretty good. It's just not in any way, shape, or form the correct age range, and there's really nothing else here. It's very blank. Little Mermaid. So I don't know what I was going with it, but I'm not mad at it. I still think it looks like a YA fantasy poster. So I tried to do a realistic version of the seashell bra, because it has banding connecting to it, so it's sort of like a bralette, but there's no straps. And considering I've always been somewhat of a voluptuous girl, I have no idea what I was doing here. If there's no straps, I don't know what was going on here. You can see the arm. They're not really anatomically correct. It's like a very squishy noodle kind of arm. But I was trying to go for the wet hair, so vast improvement compared to other things. But I definitely, you could tell that I was getting much better at faces, but I was not getting better at the background items, like things that weren't faces, so like things that required building, not the best. Ah, yes. Snow White and Rose Red. So I think I had just learned about that story because I got the Grimm Brothers fairy tale book for a present. But yeah, on one hand, you can't tell me they don't look related. You can't. On the other hand, there's absolutely no chin. And that's not to say that you can't have a smaller chin anatomically, and that's wrong in any way, but you can clearly tell here that I didn't know what I was doing in terms of proportion. And obviously this doesn't even tell the story really. It just kind of looks like a brunette and a blonde. I can do better than that. Princess and the Frog, 2012. I was trying really hard to go by the original story and not the Disney version, but you can still tell that there was inspiration, I guess, because if this wasn't in a swamp, would those flowers realistically be there? I don't know. I didn't really think that through. I like the kissy face. I remember being really proud of that one. Frog, though. Yeah. And look at this font. This is a child's font. Okay, Peter Pan. I remember my mom was actually really proud of me for drawing this, and I was happy with it, but it is not good. I can see where I was going. I think I really did want a poster when I drew this. But yeah, and I was definitely trying to figure out how to draw different poses. Is it successful? I don't think so. Look at Tinkerbell. I also would just like to point out that maybe it's because did Once Upon a Time come out by 2012? Because I remember I was really obsessed with Once Upon a Time. Also, teepees, bad. Jack and the Beanstalk. Okay, I remember when I drew this because I was also working on a science project at the same time, and I remember my professor, my teacher, I keep saying professor, I got very used to saying professor in college, but I remember my science teacher was always super supportive of my art and my friends' art, and he was super encouraging, and he was really impressed by this, and bless his heart, because, you know, looking back on it, all I see is the mistakes, but he was really supportive and encouraging, and he liked this, he really liked it. Wizard of Oz. The the very cartoonish looking dog next to this clearly Party City model reference photo is killing me here. But I was getting better at people. The lion, I clearly took a Google image, but not enough to figure out the feet. And like I always did, I was clearly trying to add as many elements of the story as possible to its detriment. But I remember some kids at school were really impressed by this, and I was feeling it. Princess and the Pea. Once again, knowing that I'm really into historical costuming, this is killing me. But the pose isn't bad, considering. I did all the mattresses in Princess and the Pea, and I did her being very upset because she wants to go to sleep. And no toes. Just vibes. Thumbelina! I did the print very small as a reference, but obviously now I'm like, this is terrible lettering. But very cute. Very cute. Like, considering it's not the best, obviously, but considering, I'm very happy with this. I'm very impressed by it. Look, like, she's doing a little pose. She's on a thing. There's no way she can see the fish, considering she's on a lily pad and the fish is right there. But, you know, the fish, fantastic. The butterfly, I think, would also be bigger than this, considering Thumbelina would be the size of a butterfly, but I don't know. I didn't do the scale. Pinocchio. The perspective is killing me. The perspective is so bad. It looks like we're looking above the desk that he's on, but the shelving is wrong, and the window is on the ground, is what it looks like. The perspective is off, and I always feel bad about perspective because I feel like I always need extra help with perspective. But this helps me feel better about it because everything here is off. You can see the ceiling, the window, and the top of this dresser all at once. I was ambitious. Little Match Girl was incredibly depressing, and I don't know why I tried to draw it. And also, how is she holding this? How is she holding it? It looks like the match is going directly through her hand. But the face is looking more childlike than the others, so I will give it that. Goldilocks and the Three Bears. There's only one bear, and you would think, considering I was doing pretty much every character and image possible, you can tell that I only drew one bear because I didn't know how to draw a bear. I'm assuming this is supposed to be a picture frame in their house. The thing is all off, and I don't know what she's wearing. And the fingers. And the type, as always, because I think it was my Beauty and the Beast obsession. I liked how they did the font at the start of Beauty and the Beast, and I clearly did not have the skills to execute something like that. the wild swans. I remember when I drew this, when I used to draw people, I would draw like the whole head and then do the features. Now I don't really do that, but I used to draw the whole head, then the features, and then the hair once the features were done, so that I wouldn't block anything with like a bang or something. And when I was drawing this, like I want to say 15 people asked me if that girl had cancer. Mulan. I read the original Mulan story in my English class in elementary school, but I was clearly basing this off of the Disney version. That being said, I think the face and the hair for the time that I was drawing this look really good. Now, the background person on a horse, that's another story. That's definitely another story. Yes. So like I said, I was getting really into folklore, for specifically of different countries' folklore, and I was getting really into it, and I tried to draw this. I think I had a reference for the face, but not for the body, and you can tell because the head is absolutely gigantic, and then this is like the shoulder. However, the skull, not that bad, and I had Matryoshka dolls. I have like a couple in my room, and clearly used that as a reference because this is the exact one that I have upstairs. Frankly, if I did redo this, I would want to do the house and not the actual characters, I think. And also, I don't even think there was a Matryoshka doll in the original story. I could be misremembering that completely because I haven't read it in a really long time, but I think I just added it for it to be Russian. So, yeah. This is nowhere near complete, but I know exactly what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be Hunchback of Notre Dame. That's supposed to be Esmeralda, and I gave up on Quasimodo because no matter how many times I drew the face, the proportions looked really off, and I knew exactly what I wanted him to look like, and I erased it a bunch of times. I don't think you can see the eraser marks on camera, but I erased it a bunch of times, and the paper's really rough, so I gave up because I knew that if I kept doing it, I was gonna rip a hole through the page. But yeah, I am actually working on a cosplay of Esmeralda right now, so content is still the same. Swan Lake is not a fairy tale, and yet I was convinced it was because of the Barbie movie, I guess. I don't know. These are supposed to be swans, and I just noticed because I thought that was a weird shape there. Yeah, I know that I can do better because I feel like I wasn't pushing it enough. I think by then I had kind of gotten into the groove of just drawing a really big face as the main character and then elements. And, you know, there's so much I could have done instead. So maybe it's a contender. This was also supposed to be another Russian story because I had like a collection of Russian folk tales that I was really into, but I cannot remember which one it is at all. But like, the face is much better than the other ones so far. Please ignore the honking. Considering what the other pieces, this is not that bad of a face in a side profile. And this isn't that bad of a child. So, yeah, if I could remember what story this is, that would be great. Redid Beauty and the Beast. And I just want to do a quick comparison. This is in 2013 versus 2012. 2012, 2013. 2012, 2013. So you can already tell that in like 1 year, I was definitely getting better. So that makes me feel good. Obviously, it's not perfect, but it's such a good improvement from where I was. And you can tell that I'm trying to do so many more details. In no way is this historically accurate, but it's so much better. Yeah, and that's kind of where I stop, other than this, I guess, watercolor drawing of Hogwarts. That's kind of it. The only other thing in this sketchbook that I haven't talked about would be the back doodles that my friends would draw on here. But other than that, that's kind of it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a prompt list because I already have a couple of ideas written down on my concept sketchbook, and I'm going to try to figure out what I'm going to be drawing for the next few months to include in my portfolio, and I'm going to try to redo some ideas that are in here. Okay, so quick update. I have been using this one that I did do a flip through of when I was showing off my old sketchbooks, because I still have pages left, well, had pages left, and I figured I could do the concept sketching in here. So this is just a quick update of my process. I wrote down a bunch of things that I could draw, book covers that I wanted to do, fairy tales that I wanted to get into, and I made a very quick prompt list based on a bunch of my ideas and a bunch of things that I knew that I needed to add to my portfolio, like dinosaurs and dragons. So like some things are completely different than the one I just flipped through. I made a list based off of all of my research of things that I wanted to add, right? So I have, some are book covers, some are spreads, some are regular illustrations, some are spot illustrations. Like I said, I have done Hansel and Gretel before, but I debated on doing one where they're lost in the woods just like this, or sketching out the house that the witch has. I might do that one, I don't know yet, but it's definitely a spot illustration story. I'm redoing Rapunzel, and I'm going to be completely just changing the origin of the story. I want to include more diversity in my portfolio, and I have a pretty good idea of what I'm doing with that. I will be doing a Cinderella retelling, and I really want to stretch the historical time period, because I think most Cinderella adaptations, if they don't have a specific time period, they definitely have a look, which is the big old crinoline hoop skirt thing, and I kind of want to stray from that. I want to try to retell it my way. So I'm going to be doing a full double spread illustration of Cinderella. I'm going to be doing a double spread illustration of Sleeping Beauty, because, you know, there's potential here. I will be doing a spot illustration of Red Riding Hood. I will be redoing the Little Mermaid, because I have done several Little Mermaid-ish illustrations in the past, but I've never fully committed to doing an illustration, so I will be doing one. A book cover for Wizard of Oz, mainly because I tried to do a book cover when I was updating my portfolio and I didn't really like it, so I want redemption from that. Obviously, not everything in here is going to end up in the portfolio. Some are outside projects that I should be working on for conventions or for personal commissions, but for the most part, I have a pretty good idea of where I'm going, and I can't wait to see the comparison between what I drew before and what I can do now. So yeah. July's gonna be a pretty busy week for me. I actually have an upcoming trip to get some stuff out of storage and to really work on my art studio. So I don't necessarily know when I'm gonna be finished with this little prompt list that I've made for my portfolio. I think if I can get some good footage of it, I might also share the process of me working on my portfolio pieces soon, because I know I have a few things lined up. I think I might start with the Hansel and Gretel witch's house soon. And yeah, if I can share that with you guys, I will. If not, I will see you when I finish my next sketchbook.